What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got some more NBA news to be talking about with you guys. In today's video, I actually wanted to be discussing the recent kind of Colin Sexton trade news that I'm sure most of you guys have probably been hearing by now. It's absolutely crazy how much this news is really spreading. Like a couple of months ago, we heard that the Cavs might have been potentially looking to trade Colin Sexton. But now there is a huge report going around by Jeremy Woo of Sports Illustrated that says that the Cavaliers have begun to explore trade options involving Colin Sexton. I cannot as well, believe this. I think this is one of the most atrocious things in my opinion, because if you look at it like this, not many people want to come to Cleveland, and the reality is Colin Sexton is one of the few people that actually wants to be in Cleveland. He recently did this one-on-one interview with Shams where he actually went on to say that he wants to be a Cavalier for the future, and he knows the Cavs want him as well.
You are going to be extension eligible this year with the Cavs. How excited are you to see what your long-term future would be there, or how do you view it going to the offseason?
Just going to the offseason like I would any other season, you know what I mean? I want to be a Cavs, and they want me as well. So I know going into the season, I know it's going to be good. And then plus us being able to have the young core, me, Darius, J.A., Isaac, like we have a really young core now. So we got K-Love, one of the vets. So we're moving in the right direction. So I can't wait. I'm excited.
Now, I hope he's right. I hope that the Cavs do want him. But I also think some of this might be on Colin Sexton. For example, there was another report as well that said Colin Sexton was in want of a $30 million max contract. Now, I'm going to say this how I see it. The way Colin Sexton plays is, he's a very good scorer. One of the most elite in the NBA. But you cannot pay a player like him $30 million a season. Now, I know Colin Sexton is a lot better than Lou Williams and Dennis Schroeder, etc., who were both like really high-profile scorers off the bench in the last couple of years. I know he's a lot better than them. But when you look at it, Lou Williams got paid like $10 million for multiple seasons, and Dennis Schroeder was on about a $13 million contract. Now, of course, Schroeder's probably going to be getting like a $7 and $18 million contract. But the thing is, Colin Sexton is just not worth $30 million. And if I'm going to say, yes, he is still better than what Schroeder is, I'd say he's probably worth around $22 to $25 million a year. He's just not worth $30 million. And if you're going to bring him off the bench in the future, you can't be expecting to pay a player that much money. Anything over $20 million to bring a player off the bench is pretty ridiculous. But of course, you'd make an exception of like $22 million a year or something for a player like Colin Sexton because he's just special and different. But I just see Colin Sexton potentially coming off the bench, especially now with the fact that the Cleveland Cavaliers won the draft lottery and now have, of course, the third overall pick, which, again, the third overall pick, you've got to take Jalen Green. Like, the Cleveland Cavaliers have to select Jalen Green. In my opinion, he'll be best available. I think even if Mobley gets drafted at 2, let's just say Mobley doesn't get drafted at 2, and for some reason the Rockets take like Suggs, I'm still taking Jalen Green over Evan Mobley. Like, Green is an insane player. Like, he nearly averaged 20 points per game this season in the G League. He is a lethal scorer, about 6'6", can play shooting guard and small forward, and has the potential to be a very versatile player on the defensive end. And I think with enough time under his belt, he could potentially do a bit more like Kevin Porter Jr. has done with the Rockets and developed into playing a little bit of that point guard position, as well. So, Jalen Green has to be the player that the Cavs get. But of course, if the Rockets do take Green at shooting guard, I'll understand them maybe taking Mobley at 3. But I just don't think the Rockets will be taking Green at shooting guard. Of course, I think you can't. How can anyone pass a Mobley and Wood front court? Like, that's just not going to happen. But if you're the Cleveland Cavaliers, they got to take Green. which means Sexton will probably start for the first season of Green's career, but from then Green will probably be the dude that eventually starts over, Colin Sexton. And that's just the way I see it, and I think it makes, of course, the most amount of sense. But Colin Sexton, I don't think the Cleveland Cavaliers should be trading him. Now, look, it's not even that. The fact that I think that the Cavs probably won't get as much for him as well, because a lot of players like him don't really have the biggest trade asset, trade value from what I'm trying to say. That's not even the main reason why I don't want them to trade him. The main reason as well is just one of the first guys that wants to be at Cleveland in a long time. And he has absolutely, done everything he can to try and win with them. He has sacrificed and has had that, real big Cleveland spirit that a lot of the Cavs have been missing for a very, very long time. So it just makes me think, you can't trade Colin Sexton unless you're getting some very good stuff in the draft. Unless, the Warriors offer you, the 7th overall pick and probably, something else. Which, again, they're probably not going to do. They're probably just going to draft a player. That's the only time I'd probably consider drafting Colin Sexton, is if they could maybe land, a Jonathan Kuminga in this draft. I think that'd be pretty cool to bring in, Kuminga and Green, but, again, that's probably not going to happen. That's the only time I'll ever, think of trading Colin Sexton away. So, in my opinion, no. The Cavs should not be trading Colin Sexton, but if there were some teams that would be interested, as I mentioned earlier, I think the Golden State Warriors will be interested. I think they desperately needed a scorer off the bench towards the end of the season, and I think if you can bring a player like Colin Sexton in to maybe average you 18 points off the bench, I think you do it. The only issue is how are the Warriors going to be able to extend him? They probably, can go over the hard cap and break, records of going over, that luxury tax hard cap type of situation. But, no, they're probably not going to do that. So I'd probably rule out the Warriors there. I think the Orlando Magic could be interested, but I think they're more set on trying to, if they were going to bring in a point guard, they'd probably bring in a playmaker. But they've already got Fultz, etc. They're looking for, small forwards and power forwards in this draft, I would think so. So I kind of already rule them out, maybe even as well. The Toronto Raptors could maybe be interested. They have the 4th pick, but the Cavs would have to probably give up Colin Sexton and a couple other things to get that 4th pick. It's just a really hard thing. The Pelicans as well, who I believe have the 10th pick, they would definitely be looking up to get some trade away some assets to give up, to get Sexton rather. But none of this is going to happen. I just don't know. I don't think there's really any teams, that the Cavs could potentially really, trade him to. I'm still not exactly too sure. I just think they should 100% keep Colin Sexton. But I'd really, really like to see how this, of course, all does, kind of go. I just hope they keep him. Again, like how Colin Sexton spoke in that Shams report, it does seem, he really wants to be here still, and that he thinks the Cleveland Cavaliers still really want to keep him. So as long as, that's really all the case, if the Cavs want to keep him, then they're of course not going to trade him. But again, these recent reports of them wanting to trade him, and the past reports that we've had in the last couple of months of them putting him up for trade as well, is kind of scary. I really would hope we should trade Kevin Love, but are we going to trade Kevin Love? Who even knows what's going to happen? They apparently are pretty honest on wanting to keep Kevin Love as well, which I kind of hate and very much dislike. I guess, Kevin Love would be cool if we can't get a power forward, but I'm sure there'll be power forwards in free agency we could definitely try and get. But of course, I'd very much like to hear all of your thoughts and opinions on this down below. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to my channel for the latest NBA and sports content. Don't forget to subscribe to my, my gaming channel and my IRL/vlog channels. And don't forget to check out my podcast as well if you haven't already, which I will all link in the description down below. But as I was saying, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.